Hi guys, I hope you're all doing well and you've had a lovely week. I'm really sorry that this video is so late, but this week I'm going to be talking about my foster placements, kind of just in more detail and just talking about kind of my experiences and what I've learned from each of my placements. So my first placement, like I had said, I arrived at in the middle of the night. I was kind of just dumped there. I wasn't really introduced, or I didn't know the family that I was put with. And I don't think I slept very much that night anyway. Um, the next morning, we were taken by these carers to Penny's to get clothes because we had arrived with none of our belongings. We didn't have anything of our own. Um, and our time there was okay. But I think that first placement was kind of where I realized the brunt of being a foster child and the kind of stigma around it. We weren't really accepted as such as part of the family. Um, the carers themselves, they were lovely, but I think they weren't in it for the right reasons. And a lot of the time, when it came to something that we needed or something that had happened, for example, if something broke or if we had a fight, we would kind of be blamed rather than the carers looking at their own kids or their own grandchildren in the situation. Um, I do remember with that first placement that the granddaughter, now I'm going to excuse this because we were all kids. Even though I think it's probably a big thing that needs to be improved, is that carers who do take in foster children need to be able to balance that right with their own family and teach their own children and their own grandchildren how to interact with and treat a foster child um as just another human being and another child in their home. Because in that placement, I do remember that their granddaughter was quite rude and she did bully us and kind of was like talking about the fact that we were foster children and we didn't have a family and our parents didn't want us and such and such. So that was, I think that made it a lot more difficult. Being in the situation, being placed into a home that you don't know, and then having somebody else mock you for it as well. So I think that first placement was kind of eye opening to the world that we were about to enter as foster kids, um, and kind of the stigma that would come with it. Um, my next placement, I was much happier. I did bond more with the family, um, but again, I think that family was also in it for the wrong reasons. Um, I feel like a lot of carers do go into the job for the financial aspect, which is wrong on all levels. And if you are thinking of fostering, you need to be going in there with a clear mind and a good heart and doing it for the right reasons. Because when you don't do it for the right reasons, that is when that child's life is made so much worse by the situation that they're put in. Which is what happened in this placement for me, I think. There was also the fact that these carers had a lot of expectations of how I should have been acting and how I should have been behaving. I don't think they entered into the job realizing that foster children are coming from broken homes and they will have a lot of different issues that you're going to need to address and help them through rather than scolding them for it and then deciding that it's just too difficult for you to handle and leaving them to be sent to another home, um, which is kind of what happened with me in my second placement. My carers there didn't really per se want me anymore because they couldn't handle the kind of mental health and emotional issues that came with what I had been through. And At the time, I was heartbroken because I felt more at home there. And I guess a lot of the carers that I had been with had much bigger homes and I suppose a wealthier lifestyle than I had been used to. So it was an amazing change to see that I had my own bedroom or that I had a garden that I could play in and things like that, or that I could get clothes or eat regularly. Um, in these homes. So I was heartbroken to have been taken out of that placement. Um, and in my next placement, which was only supposed to be a respite placement, um, I realized that it was difficult for me to trust anyone, particularly my carers, because I had been moved so many times previously and I felt like I was being given empty promises a lot of the time. Um, in that particular placement, I had requested that my carer not let my social worker bother me because I had been upset. I had had a rough time. My social worker was not helping me. But that carer did end up letting the social worker barge into my bedroom at the time. Um, Later on, I had realized that she did not really have a say in it. Um, and the social worker would have gone up anyway. But obviously, at the time, I just felt a sense of betrayal. I felt like the person that was supposed to be taking care of me and protecting me and making me feel safe wasn't doing so. Um, and I think that was kind of the case with a lot of my placements. Um, then I was placed in my final placement, which I don't really want to call it a placement because to me that is my family. These are the people that I had bonded with throughout the years and that have accepted me and supported me and helped me get to where I am today. So I had found my family, and obviously it was full of ups and downs as well. And at the time I was 15, I had just turned 15 when I had met my now family. So obviously I had a lot of the teen anguish going on at the time on top of having been a foster child. So, me and my ma would have fought like any mother and daughter should. And I think I really appreciated that because that's something I'd never had in my life. I also appreciated having older sisters, because I had an older brother, biological older brother, but I was never close to him, so I had always felt alone in a sense. But I then gained older sisters, and it was an amazing thing. I think this is the only placement where I've actually never been called a foster child or the foster child. And I've also never been unwanted. I've always been accepted as part of the family in everything. In previous placements, whenever the family had a trip or a holiday, I would have always been placed in a respite placement. But with my ma, she always included me and she brought me on holiday with her, which was the first time I had ever been abroad. The first time I'd ever been in a holiday house near the beach and by a pool. It was an amazing thing to have because obviously I grew up without any of that. Um, but yeah, I think a lot of the places that I was in didn't make me feel like I had a family. I was always the foster child, and I think that's a massive stigma. Um, is being the outsider everywhere you go. And that carries on to the rest of your life because you feel like an outsider everywhere. It affects your self esteem, it affects how you feel about yourself, it affects your mental health. And I think it had done so for me as well. I still to this day have attachment issues and other kind of issues because of being in the care system. Um, and I think I still always feel kind of unwanted in certain situations because I had always been basically given back to the system when my carers didn't want me anymore. That's how it has always felt to me, and I know that's kind of harsh to say, but I feel like there might be others who could relate to that as well. That experience of being placed somewhere, finally, taking down your walls and getting comfortable, and then being taken away and placed somewhere else again. It's a tough experience to go through. Um, I had also been in a lot of respite, so respite placements, temporary placements, while I either waited for my carers to come back at the time from a holiday or whatever, or I had been waiting to find a new placement. But I think my experience in respite placements is much better. Um, I think I always felt more included, and I felt that they were always much friendlier. The carers were always much friendlier. When I was there for a shorter period of time. I suppose that's because obviously they didn't have that commitment of having to take in a child long term, so it was more easygoing. Um, but yeah, those are kind of my experiences in the care system. Um, a lot of the carers aren't there for the right reasons, and that is not to discredit those who are there, like my ma, who are working hard for the right reasons, and they have the purest hearts, and they give foster children lives that they could never even dream of having, that they never thought they would have. Um, Also, this is not the experience of every foster child. Like I had said before, not everybody comes from the same situation, and not everybody is in the same circumstances. There's a lot of positive stories out there, and they have great carers who, take care of their needs. I just happen to have been unlucky in my experiences. Um, and I guess the advice that I would give to any carer who is thinking of fostering children or is fostering children, um, do teach your family, prepare your family, your children, your grandchildren, for that foster child entering your home, because it is the worst thing when you're already at your lowest and somebody else is mocking you or bringing you down because of a situation that you can't control at all. Um, and I suppose as well, make them feel as welcome as possible, and don't label them as the foster child, because that's going to make them feel more like an outsider. It did so for me anyway. Um, but yeah, I really hope you liked the video, guys. I'm really sorry it's late again. Um, Next week's video will also be a little bit heavy, just as this one was, but I'm going to try and keep it as light as I possibly can. I will be talking about my family dynamics prior to entering the care system and what they were like when I entered the care system and since. Hopefully you will enjoy that. Thank you so much for listening and for all your support. If you could please share my page and like my posts, it would really help me broaden my reach so that I could hopefully provide support and information for more people out there who may be in the same situation or may have had the same experiences. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.